Well, boys, today is a very rough day, to say the least, for us Raider fans. Our season, which we thought, we finally had something good going, has seemingly been cut short as our team now is in shambles as we're missing our head coach, Jon Gruden. If you guys don't keep up on social media or haven't been seeing any news outlets reporting on this, A, what the hell are you doing, bro? Get out from that rock you're living under. And B, I'll give you a quick overview right now. And I do want to say that everything I'm about to say is taken from the New York Times article, which is the first publication that kind of broke this story and has been leading the way on any developing news. Jon Gruden stepped down Monday as the coach of the Las Vegas Raiders football team hours after the New York Times detailed emails in which he made homophobic and misogynistic remarks following an earlier report of racist statements about a union leader. Jon Gruden's statement on the topic is as follows: I have resigned as head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. I love the Raiders and do not want to be a distraction. Thank you to all the players, coaches, staff, and fans of the Raider Nation. I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt anyone. And then as for the Raiders organization themselves, there wasn't much of a comment on the matter. Mark Davis said only this: I've accepted Jon Gruden's resignation as head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. And I've been seeing a lot of backlash. I mean, in terms of some people saying that this was a total overreaction and being blown out of proportion. Some people saying that, as Adam Beasley says here, this is not nearly enough. And the one thing I will say is condemning Jon Gruden is one thing, but the people who are now coming for the Raiders organization is absolutely ass backwards. The Raiders organization has objectively been on the cutting edge of promoting diversity and inclusivity for the last 30 years. Al Davis was literally known for being one of the most progressive owners in the NFL, if not the most progressive owner in NFL history. And he has obviously passed that down to Mark Davis, who keeps up the same philosophies in the way he runs the Raiders. So for people to come at the Raiders when everything that transpired was actually before Jon Gruden was even affiliated with the Raiders, I think is a bit ridiculous. So I do want to get that out of the way just to say any criticisms of the Raiders on this matter, I think, are totally misguided and need to be directed back to Jon Gruden, who's the one who actually made these comments. And so now that we've kind of set the stage as to like what's going down, I still want to give you guys details of what was said, when it was said, and then my commentary on it and how it affects the Raiders going forward. I also want to say that as we get into this, I know that as a straight white male who makes YouTube videos nonetheless, my commentary on anything regarding marginalized and oppressed groups in this country is not what people always want to hear. And I get that. I'm not the person who is the determining factor of whether this is racist or not, whether it's offensive or not. Really, I have no say in this because I am not one of the groups that is targeted by his statements. But I am going to give my commentary. And so if that's what you're going to comment about, guys, it's my YouTube channel. Please just, skip to a different video if you don't want to hear what I have to say about the topic. Additionally, I want to say, because I know these topics can get pretty hot and heated, in the comments, please do not be attacking each other and really going at each other in these arguments, because one person's opinion and background might be totally different from yours. And if you disagree and you can't reply respectfully, it's best to just move on. You can post your opinion in the comments, but please, again, do not be attacking each other, because the last thing I want is to be hosting a cesspool of toxicity of internet people, because I know how it gets. So getting into the actual timeline of things, the first story of any of this broke last week before the Raiders even played on Sunday. He made a racist comment about the NFL Players Association director, DeMaurice Smith. So this man is African-American. Gruden referred to him in an email calling him DeMaurice, like D-U-M-B, dumb, and said he has lips the size of Michelin tires in 2011. The way this email surfaced is through an investigation of the Washington football team. So they've been investigating the conduct of the staff and owners of the Washington football team for quite a while now, and this included going through everything that the team's associated with. And Gruden had sent this email to the president of the Washington football team. So through this whole process, which was not even really related to Gruden in the first place, this email is uncovered, it gets leaked to the public, and then, of course, at that point, public backlash ensues, and then a deeper dive goes into Gruden, and then they find even more stuff on him. Now, as we are all educated in 2021, I think everybody knows nowadays insulting an African-American for their lips is a racist comment. I think everybody knows nowadays that's unacceptable, that's very racially insensitive, and honestly inappropriate, especially if it's in some type of professional setting. That being said, and I don't want to sound like I'm defending Gruden at all for this, because I don't condone his comments, but social issues and the conversations around them, the education that we have been given, really started taking center stage over the last 3 to 4 years. And so I honestly believe that Gruden was just ignorant in making this comment. I don't think he was trying to use it in a racist way. And the reason I say that is because of all the other emails that they found from Gruden. This was the only one with racial undertones. This was the only one that would be classified as racist. And so I do not know Jon Gruden personally. I do not want to cape for him and tell you he is not a racist because I don't know the guy. I've never talked to him. But based on what I've seen from this, I don't think that comment of saying he has big lips alone is enough for me to like say that is a racist. Fuck him, you know? And so following the release of this first racist comment, Mark Davis condemned the comment, saying that it was disturbing, that they were going to look more into it. Jon Gruden came out and publicly apologized, said that he did not mean it in a racist way. He said, quote, "I've never had a racist bone in my body." He said he was mad at the time and just took it out in a way that was, inappropriate. He actually even said that the reason he said that and made that analogy was because he calls liars rubber-lipped. That's a saying he uses. And so that's why he made the comparison of Michelin tires. I kind of think that explanation is bullshit, if I'm being honest. I think he was just trying to make fun of the dude's lips. I don't want to say nothing more would have come from that comment if that was it, but they continued the investigation into his emails, and they did find quite a bit more on stuff that was homophobic and misogynistic. Those were the two things that were probably the key factors that led to his dismissal. So I'm just going to touch on the main points of things he said that were homophobic and misogynistic. The first one was in reference to the commissioner, Roger Goodell. He called him an F-slur. I assume you guys know what I'm talking about there. And he called him a clueless anti-football pussy. And he thinks Goodell should not have pressured Jeff Fisher, who's the coach of the Rams at the time, to draft Q-slur in a reference to Michael Sam, who was the gay player chosen by the Rams in 2014. Once this news broke, I think it was without a doubt pretty solidified that he was going to be stepping down from the Raiders. I remember reading the story before he announced he was stepping down and just thinking like, damn, I think that's it for Jon Gruden. And I especially think, considering the amount of press that has been around this topic, I don't think there's any way the Raiders could have kept him on. And so what I read happened is Mark Davis showed up to the facility after hearing the news, sought out Gruden. They met in a closed room where obviously nobody knows what happened. And then upon leaving the room, the news broke that Jon Gruden stepped down. So what I assume happened is there was probably lawyers involved. If you guys didn't know, Gruden has a huge contract. It was $100 million. And so upon his early dismissal, he's only been here 2.5 seasons out of 10 years that he was supposed to be guaranteed in the contract. I'm sure there was a pretty big financial settlement handed out to Gruden so that he would walk away from that contract and it wouldn't get too messy. And again, any criticism of the Raiders here, because I have read some on Twitter saying that what Mark Davis has done is not enough. I don't really understand. He literally acted as promptly as possible right when the news broke, going straight to the facility and basically firing Gruden on the spot. So from his perspective, I feel like what more could he have done? It was not under him when all these comments were said. He fired him immediately upon finding out that they were said and released a statement saying that, I accept the resignation and condemning the disturbing messages. I think Mark Davis in all of this is the one guy who should not be criticized because, again, kind of doesn't have much to do with him. The pressure is a lot more on Jon Gruden here. Now, these comments are much more unredeemable. There's not really any way to frame this in a way that isn't a slur or isn't homophobic because it most definitely is. It didn't stop with the homophobia. Gruden definitely had some other problematic things to say. One of them saying that Eric Reed, someone who had been very known for protesting the national anthem, should be cut from the team. I think that is completely inappropriate. Even though he was not a coach with the NFL at the time, he was a high-profile analyst for ESPN. So anybody in power or kind of having these type of connections should not be commenting on political matters, especially those meant to fight racial injustice. That is just, an asshole opinion to have in the first place. And in the second place, to comment on it openly like that is definitely problematic. Another problematic topic that has been revealed is Gruden was apparently not super thrilled on the fact that there was going to be women referees. Now, how seriously he meant these things or whether it was more of jokes, I don't really know because the actual details weren't shared, but it did say that there was memes about the women referees sent. I gotta say, because they didn't detail it, if these were just memes about women refs being sent back and forth, I don't really think that needs to be included in here. Again, I know I've sent my fair share of memes that are probably offensive in some ways. I think I've probably even seen and sent memes of women referees myself. Not to say that that's okay, but I'm just being completely honest here with you guys. For example, it says right here in 2017, Drost shared the group a sexist meme of a female referee, to which Gruden replied, "Nice job, Roger." Again, like if memes are the extent of his denigration of women referees, I think like we got bigger fish to fry here. I don't know why that's even included. Because again, a lot of the way these things are phrased is it gives like a brief overview, but it doesn't actually tell you the specific details. Some of them it does, such as him using the slurs. That is, black and white horrendous. But then it says things like he was against Roger Goodell fighting for less concussions. They're phrasing it as if Gruden is like pro concussion, which is, it's not true. Like, he's probably upset with the unnecessary roughness and all the targeting penalties that are added into the league because it is changing the sport. It's a necessary change, of course, but an old school coach like Gruden, I'm not surprised, would be unhappy with all the penalties for targeting and whatnot nowadays. Another email string that was included is Gruden calling Vice President Joe Biden in 2012 a nervous, clueless pussy. Why is this being included? That is not something that is relevant. And as I said before, there are bigger fish to fry. To use an analogy, I guess, there are $100 bills in this article. There are big ticket items. Him using the F slur, him saying what he said about Michael Sam, him saying what he said about DeMaurice Smith. Those are worthy of reporting. But then his criticism of Joe Biden being included in there just makes me feel like the author here had a different agenda than just actually getting justice for the original comments, but more of just trying to out Gruden to make him as unlikable as possible. And so I do kind of want to focus my commentary on the ones that I think are the most problematic. And again, a lot of those are in reference to the homophobic comments he made. And so him being the first coach to start an openly gay player, I am so curious, and I'm looking forward to hear, because the story is still developing, what Carl Nassib has to say about this matter. Carl Nassib, obviously working closely with Gruden. I've seen so many pictures of them hugging and having a relationship. I want to know what he has to say on this, because he's probably the biggest person affected by these comments. His coach being outed for saying very, very homophobic things. I'm very much looking forward to hear what Carl has to say about this. And so it goes without saying that Gruden is officially done with the Raiders. Our 7.5 years we had remaining are no more, and we're going to be looking for a new coach. With that said, I do hope that Gruden finds his way back to football in some capacity in the future. Obviously, I think he's going to have to take some time off. I think after time off, a little reflecting, maybe some more education if it's still an issue, he should be able to come back. After, I don't know if it's going to be 1 year, 2 years, 5 years. I think he should come back in some capacity, because while his comments are deplorable and unacceptable, I don't think he deserves to be, outcasted from society and banished to the depths of hell forever. I think he deserves a chance to redeem himself some point in the far future. That being said, I totally support the decision for him to part ways with the Raiders. I think that is the only solution here. In the meantime, they have promoted Rich Bisaccia, the special teams coordinator, to interim head coach, and I'm not sure if that's going to last the remainder of the year or if they're going to immediately start looking for a full-time replacement. But I also don't think it's the worst thing in the world that this happened, okay? And you want to hear me out. I am a Raider fan, okay? And while I do like Jon Gruden as a coach, I want what's best for the Raiders. And unfortunately, I don't think a $100 million contract for Jon Gruden was what was best for the Raiders. I really don't, especially when the league is moving in a direction where, honestly, young, fresh minds are the ones having the most success. We look at Sean McVay. I would say Sean McVay is one of the most talented coaches I've ever seen, and he's extremely young. We look at Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator for the Cowboys. That guy is killing it and has had unbelievable success turning that team around and completely reshaping their offense. And so in Gruden's absence, my hopes are that Rich Bisaccia does a great job the remainder of this year, assuming he is going to be the head coach through the end of the year. And I'm hoping that our playoff hopes are still alive. I don't know how important Gruden was to any of the Raiders' success so far this year. The last few weeks have been a little rough, but you never know if maybe this will be a change for the best. When they do get a long-term head coach, my hope is that it is an offensive coach. Obviously, we already have Gus Bradley as a defensive coordinator. He has done wonders for this defense, and the Raiders' defense honestly looks better than it has as long as I've been alive. This is the best Raiders defense I have seen in my lifetime. I'm only 24, so obviously that doesn't say a ton, but the best defense in the last 24 years is pretty significant, and I think a lot of that credit goes to Gus Bradley. So the new coach, I definitely think, needs to be an offensive-minded coach, the way Gruden was. And my hopes is it's a young guy who has a new forward way of thinking and is going to revolutionize some things. Some names that have been thrown around. I've already mentioned Kellen Moore from the Cowboys. I think that would be my number one pick. I would be so happy if we snatched Kellen Moore from the grips of Jerry Jones. But another name I've heard tossed around is Lincoln Riley, the coach of the Sooners. I think that would be a pretty cool move as well. I know he has had a lot of success over there, and people are saying he deserves a shot in the NFL. So another young guy could come in, and in McVay style, you know, be our guy for the future. I think that would be really, really cool. And so closing thoughts, while I am very upset to be parting ways with Gruden, I think it is well-deserved. What he said is not acceptable, especially from anyone in power in the NFL, and especially as a head coach. That's not good for the locker room. That's not good for the team. And honestly, there needs to be some type of reprimand for the things he's done. As for how this affects the Raiders, I'm actually not that upset. I do think this is going to hurt our odds of making the playoffs this year, but I think moving forward into the next 7 years of this contract, it's actually going to be for the best. So I'm excited to see how the Raiders play without Gruden on Sunday. I'm also excited to see the future of this coaching staff and who they appoint to be the head coach. And so once again, please guys, try to keep it respectful in the comments. I know this is a very heated topic, so please refrain from attacking each other and myself. If I said anything that you felt was offensive or uneducated in any way, please educate me. I am totally open ears, open eyes, ready to learn as much as possible so we can move forward together. And you know what? Before I go, baby, go Raiders.
Now I'm on the outside.